So friends, Ron DeSantis and his governmental henchmen down in Florida not only want to deprive women of the right to make their own reproductive health decisions, they also want to prosecute the people who have the nerve to disagree with them. Well, a federal judge down in Florida just put a stop to DeSantis's threats, telling he and his henchmen, quote, "It's the First Amendment, stupid," close quote. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, I've been wanting to do this video for several days now, ever since some news broke down in Florida about women's reproductive rights, but I've been so distracted by Donald Trump's near daily promises of lawlessness in the event he is elected again. But now I really want to turn my attention to what's going on down in Florida. You know, Governor Ron DeSantis and his Republican henchmen down there not only put an abortion ban, a 6-week abortion ban, on the books in Florida. It took effect on May 1st, 2024. Not only are they victimizing women, not only do they think they have the right to make a woman's reproductive health decisions for her, over her objection and against her will. Are you fucking kidding me? That's the first time in the nearly 5 years here on Justice Matters that you've heard me use that word, and I apologize, but are you effing kidding me? DeSantis gets to make that decision for women over their objection and against their will. Not only has DeSantis and his henchmen done all of that, but now they want to prosecute people who create and air political ads that oppose DeSantis's position. So friends, let's take a minute to set this one up. On May 1st, 2024, a 6-week abortion ban went into effect. It is the law. It's on the books in Florida. And let's face it, at the 6-week mark, many women won't even know they're pregnant. So this is just a flat-out abortion ban. But the good news is there is an amendment to Florida's Constitution that's on the ballot this election. It's called Amendment 4, and it would restore and enshrine in the Florida Constitution the right of women to make their own reproductive health decisions. So, of course, Governor Ron DeSantis spent millions and millions of taxpayer dollars trying to defeat Amendment 4, urging the people of Florida to vote Amendment 4 down, right? Keep women as second-class citizens. Continue to let DeSantis and his henchmen make women's reproductive health decisions for them. Well, then a group called Floridians Protecting Freedom had the nerve to make a political ad supporting Amendment 4, supporting women's reproductive rights, and those ads began to air on various TV stations down in Florida. So what did DeSantis and his henchmen do? Sent threatening letters to TV stations saying, if you keep airing this ad, you will be criminally prosecuted. Now, if you'll bear with me, friends, we're going to have to look together at several news accounts and some source material to try to unpack sort of what has gone on, where things stand at the moment, and what's likely to go on in the future on this issue. And let's start with some reporting from CNN. Headline, "It's the First Amendment, stupid." Federal judge blasts DeSantis administration for threats against TV stations. And that article begins, quote, "To keep it simple for the state of Florida, It's the First Amendment, stupid, close quote. That's what a federal judge wrote Thursday as he sided with local TV stations in an extraordinary dispute over a pro-abortion rights television ad. Chief U.S. District Judge Mark Walker of the Northern District of Florida granted a temporary restraining order against Florida's Surgeon General after the state health department threatened to bring criminal charges against broadcasters airing the ad. The controversy stems from a campaign by the group Floridians Protecting Freedom, which is behind the Yes on 4 campaign, promoting a ballot measure that seeks to overturn Florida's 6-week abortion ban by enshrining abortion rights in the state constitution. In a 30-second ad, a brain cancer survivor named Caroline says the state law would have prevented her from receiving a life-saving abortion. Quote, "The doctors knew that if I did not end my pregnancy, I would lose my baby, I would lose my life, and my daughter would lose her mom," she says on camera. Florida has now banned abortions even in cases like mine. The state health department, part of Governor Ron DeSantis' administration, which has aggressively campaigned against the pro-abortion amendment, said the ad's claims are false and dangerous to the public health. John Wilson, the health department's general counsel, sent cease and desist letters to multiple television stations airing the ad. Floridians Protecting Freedom then filed a lawsuit against Wilson and the state's Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, saying the threats amounted to unconstitutional coercion and viewpoint discrimination, and pressed the court to bar the state from following up on threats to sue. On Thursday, the judge agreed the health department's threats were viewpoint discrimination and wrote that the group presented a substantial likelihood of proving an ongoing violation of its First Amendment rights through the threatened direct penalization of its political speech. Now, friends, let's take a quick, closer look at the commercial that was produced by Floridians Protecting Freedom involving this woman, Caroline, and let's take a closer look at exactly what claim was being made by DeSantis and his henchmen. This from the Tampa Bay Times. Caroline needed medical treatment to prolong her life, but the treatment would likely have harmed or killed the fetus, attorneys with the Pro-Amendment 4 group said. The abortion was necessary to allow Caroline to continue treatment of her terminal cancer, but since the procedure alone would not have saved her life, it may have not qualified as an exemption under Florida's strict 6-week abortion law, they said. John Wilson, who is the Florida Health Department General Counsel, John Wilson warned that if television stations did not take down the pro-Amendment 4 political ads, they would be committing a second-degree misdemeanor, which carries a sentence of up to 60 days in prison or a fine of up to $500. He said the ads were categorically false and a sanitary nuisance in violation of state law. What is the sanitary nuisance violation of state law that DeSantis and his henchmen were claiming was involved in this ad that had been produced by Floridians Protecting Freedom? Well, the sanitary nuisance state law usually regulates the improper disposal of human waste or garbage or improperly built septic tanks. You know, friends, you don't have to be a lawyer to feel like that's DeSantis and company just stretching and contorting and misusing a law, trying to fit a round peg into a square hole just to, stop women from making their own reproductive decisions at all costs. Speaking of women's rights, let's have a look at Amendment 4 that's up for a vote down in Florida, and it would enshrine a woman's right to make her own decisions into the Florida Constitution. This from a local station down in Florida, WUSF, which is an NPR affiliate. What is Florida's abortion amendment? Amendment 4 at a glance. Floridians will get the chance to vote on whether or not abortion is a state constitutional right via Amendment 4. But what is the amendment, and what are opponents saying about it? Hundreds of thousands of people have already voted in Florida's upcoming general election by mail. One of the constitutional initiatives on the ballot has to do with abortion. Pro-abortion advocates, such as Floridians Protecting Freedom, have been working to educate the public on why they think Amendment 4 should pass. The group was responsible for collecting the 900,000 necessary signatures to get the measure on the November 5 ballot. It must be approved by 60% of the voters to pass. Opponents, groups like Physicians Against Amendment 4, argue that if passed, the measure would bring unintended consequences. Unintended consequences? What, like restoring a woman's right to make her own reproductive health decisions? Taking those rights away from DeSantis and his henchmen? The amendment is 49 words long and is stirring a lot of disagreement on what it would do. What is Amendment 4? The official name for Amendment 4 is the Amendment to Limit Government Interference with Abortion. It states, quote, "No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider." Now, before we finish up by looking at the ruling handed down by the federal judge telling Ron DeSantis, "It's the First Amendment, stupid," and knocking down his ability to stop the pro-Amendment 4 ads from being run down in Florida, here is another troubling development. Remember the name John Wilson that I read a few minutes ago? He was the general counsel for the Florida Health Department, and his signature appeared on those cease and desist letters that DeSantis had sent to the TV stations, telling them stop running the pro-Amendment 4 ad or else. Well, friends, as a further indication of how Ron DeSantis runs things down there in Florida, look at this development with respect to the former Health Department General Counsel, John Wilson. This from The Intercept. Headline, "State lawyer," that would be John Wilson, "state lawyer quits over Ron DeSantis' unconstitutional attacks on abortion amendment." And that article begins, "Governor Ron DeSantis' close legal advisors ordered the Florida Department of Health to send unconstitutional threats regarding an abortion ballot measure, according to a federal court filing. Ordered to keep sending letters warning TV stations of criminal charges if they continued airing an advertisement promoting the abortion measure, the agency's top lawyer resigned in protest earlier this month," he wrote in an affidavit that was filed on Monday. John Wilson, now former general counsel for the state health department, wrote in his affidavit that DeSantis' general counsel and his underlings drafted the letters and ordered Wilson to send them. Quote, "I did not draft the letters or participate in any discussions about the letters prior to October 3rd, Wilson wrote. By the time he resigned on October 10, the agency had sent threatening letters to approximately 50 stations around Florida. At least one station stopped running the ad, according to court filings. Now, friends, with all of that as our backdrop, let's finish up with the new court ruling by federal court judge Mark Walker. Now, this was in connection with a suit that was filed by the group Floridians Protecting Freedom, the group that produced the pro-Amendment 4 ad in response to DeSantis and his henchmen sending these threatening letters to TV stations saying, stop running the ad or you will be prosecuted. They were seeking a restraining order, asking the federal court to make DeSantis stop violating their First Amendment rights. Here is how Judge Walker's ruling begins. Order granting temporary restraining order. Floridians will vote on 6 proposed amendments to their state constitution this election cycle, including Amendment 4, titled Amendment to Limit Government Interference with Abortion. Voting has already begun. The state of Florida opposes Amendment 4 and has launched a taxpayer-funded campaign against it. Floridians Protecting Freedom, Inc., the plaintiff in this case, has launched its own campaign in favor of Amendment 4. Plaintiff does not challenge the state's right to spend millions of taxpayer dollars opposing Amendment 4. Can I pause right there, friends? Women who actually don't want their reproductive rights taken away from them and handed over to DeSantis and company are paying money to Florida in taxes. And DeSantis is turning around and using their tax dollars, women who would like to retain their privacy rights to make their own reproductive health decisions. He's taking their tax dollars and using them to wage a campaign to defeat Amendment 4, to continue to deprive women of their rights to make their own reproductive health decisions. My God, and this is America. And this is Florida. Yeah, all of that is my editorial addition to the judge's order. Returning to Judge Walker's order, plaintiff does not challenge the state's right to spend millions of taxpayer dollars opposing Amendment 4. The rub, says plaintiff, is that the state has crossed the line from advocating against Amendment 4 to censoring speech by demanding television stations remove plaintiff's political advertisements supporting Amendment 4 or face criminal prosecution. Plaintiff's argument is correct. While defendant Ladapo refuses to even agree with the simple fact plaintiff's political advertisement is political speech, speech at the core of the First Amendment. And just this year, the United States Supreme Court reaffirmed the bedrock principle that the government cannot do indirectly what it cannot do directly by threatening third parties with legal sanctions to censor speech it disfavors. The government cannot excuse its indirect censorship of political speech simply by declaring the disfavored speeches false. The very purpose of the First Amendment is to foreclose public authority from assuming a guardianship of the public mind through regulating the press, speech, and religion. In this field, every person must be his own watchman for truth, because the forefathers did not trust any government to separate the true from the false for us. To keep it simple, for the state of Florida, it's the First Amendment, stupid. Friends, so much is at stake, certainly for women's rights in Florida and nationwide. To let the Ron DeSantises of the world make reproductive health decisions for women without their consent and over their objection is obscene and is an affront to the equal rights and freedoms America is supposed to be about. Women know what's at stake. And you know, I have a message for the men of America as they head to the polls. Hey, men, with a vote for Harris, you can support and protect the health and safety of your wife, your daughters, your nieces, your granddaughters, your female friends and acquaintances. Or, with a vote for Trump, You can deprive them all of their autonomy and endanger their lives. We've got to do this, friends, because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.